the weekly update for Mr. Fix's science class for the week of September 9th. Alright, so Monday we definitely had a holiday, so nobody was there. We had our Penguin Shelter Engineering Challenge. We continued that, and we finished up the initial individual shelter design, and we started the design process, problem, constraints, and research. So let's take a look at that. Alright, so this is the individual penguin shelter design. So students had to do numbers 1 and 2. They started this last Friday and they finished it up today. And then we went over it. We also went over the problem, constraints, and research in our groups. And so students had to fill this out, and it's kind of a step 1 in the group design process. Alright, then students started materials testing. These are the materials that students are going to be using on their shelter. And so they're seeing how well these items deal with conduction and radiation heat transfer. And so they took, for each material, they place, like to the white paper, they place a piece of white paper on the countertop, thermometer on top of the white paper, then a second piece of white paper on top of the thermometer. And so they turn the lamp on, and then for every 30 seconds they record the temperature, and then they calculate the overall temperature change. So they do that for all materials and a combination. So maybe they do a combination of mylar with black foam to see how well it works together. So we did that. We started that Wednesday, continued Thursday, continued Friday. Also on page 13, while 2 members of the group were doing the materials testing at a time, we had students copy down on page 13 how heat does transfer in the penguin shelter model. So students had to draw the diagram and explanations of showing how conduction happens through the bottom of the shelter on top of the bottom of the simulated Rockland summer temperatures. Also, they had to copy down how conduction happens between the hot air outside the shelter and the cooler air inside the shelter. They had to copy down how conduction happens from the cool air molecules touching the hot shelter material, and radiation. They had to explain again how the shelter material absorbs some of the light coming from the lamp and increase temperature that way. So that was on page 13 of the reference notebook. And we studied for the heat transfer quiz that we had on Friday. Now, I told students to, that they had to know the page 8 reference notebook heat transfer key terms. Those are they. Then they had a Quizlet practice where they can various methods of going through the key terms, how they can study and practice those. I highly recommend to those students. And we did heat transfer review questions each day at the beginning of the period. So if students didn't do too well on the quiz on Friday, they have an opportunity to use these materials and to quiz again. Also, I went over the marine biology trip information with classes on Thursday. There's an application will be available on Monday of next week. So I went over all this, and you can also look at this on your own as well. Alright, so that's what we did this week. Hope you have a good weekend. Bye-bye.